Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm, Sunday the 17th of August, and our Barclays Premier League season is about to kick off today. The Arsenal head to Old Trafford to play Manchester United, and I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Alice of Alice Talks Footy. Alice, welcome on this early Sunday morning. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I am good. I am nervous for the game, but I feel like we've been waiting so long for this game. We've been anticipating it all week. Today is finally game day. Like yesterday, I was just like, why can't our game be on today? So it's finally here.
It is finally here. Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. Oh, obviously, an early start as well for lots of Arsenal fans. We never knew the sort of latte shows so early, but it's a pleasure to be here. I am, of course, going to Old Trafford, so really looking forward to today. And like you say, we've had, the curtain raiser, Liverpool on Friday. We had a good day, a decent day of Barclays, Manchester City looking ominous last night. But of course, it's us in action today. So a warm welcome to everybody watching. Those of you who are tuning in, if you are new to the channel, do subscribe, drop a like on the video. It's a massive help. I guess the place to start is, you sort of talk about nerves. Are you ready? Are Manchester United ready to start the season today?
Uh, I guess in a sense of pre-season, there was better signs, and I think that we looked a bit fitter. Yes, but I just don't like the idea of going into the first game of the season without a new midfielder. I think we all knew attack needed to be sorted, and we've done that, which is brilliant. And you know what? Like we've got players that everybody else wanted. We somehow managed to pull them. Even I don't know what we have. Like because we're not even offering crazy wages. I feel like we literally just went to them and went, yeah, but we're Man United, and we've got Mbeumo, we've got Cunha, we've got Sesko, which is great. But we all knew that like we also needed a midfielder because we've got Bruno Fernandes, who's a great player who can play deeper. But again, we don't have someone to partner him if he's going to play deeper. And then Kobbie Mainoo is obviously an unbelievable talent, but he needs someone who's going to be able to cover a lot of ground. He needs a Moises Caicedo, Carlos Balebas type player next to him, and we haven't got that. So my biggest concern is Subamende and Rice versus I don't know who's going to be in midfield for Man United. Probably Casemiro and Bruno. The physicality worries me. I think that even our teams, like watching Tottenham yesterday, I feel like they're fitter and they're faster, and that concerns me. I'm happy with the attack, but I do have concerns around the midfield.
Well, we'll talk about your form over pre-season, anything that you sort of noticed in terms of style of play shortly. I've just brought up a slide of three of your new boys. Obviously, Brian Mbeumo from Brentford, a player that we were once linked with. Benjamin Šeško, who, of course, Arsenal were chasing as well, and we ended up getting Victor Gyökeres. And Matheus Cunha, who had a fine season for Wolves last year. Really, really solid signings. And listen, we're not one of those sort of sensational channels. I have been praising each of these three. I think they're really good additions. I can't understand why Manchester United are, sacking their dinner ladies, one day and then signing £100 million plus sort of superstars. You talk about the defensive midfielder that you need, but these three on screen, Gary Neville talked about, how his expectations for Manchester United are to kind of creep up to sixth, maybe sort of sixth to eighth this season. Are these going to take you there? Are you expecting more? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, I think the thing that we have is one game a week, and we need to take advantage of that. I think for me, I just want to be back in Europe, like Europa League, ideally, not a conference. I think top six would be nice. I predicted us to finish eighth. I think Anana's got mistakes in him. Baindy is just really not good. Like some people are like, we need to drop Anana, and I'm like, no, like because Baindy is not a good backup. So
Wow.
Anana's got mistakes in him. Midfield is questionable, but the attack is gonna help a lot. I think if we came 15th last year, but we underperformed our XG. We were I think we were ranked like 16th for like underperformance of XG. So I think having two players in Matheus Cunha and Mbeumo that overperform their XG, that a clinical finish is coming in will be big. I think we had a lot of games where we didn't win, but I don't even think we were bad. Like when we lost to Wolves, we were by far the better team. When we lost to Forest, we should have scored about 3 goals. When we lost to West Ham, we should have won that game about 5-1. I remember Delot missing an open goal. I feel like with the amount of games that we played, that actually I'm not going to make out that we were all right last season, but I actually think if we could have actually hit the target, we would have come 11th and not 15th, which still for Man United is appalling. But I do think having these attackers in, and also just Premier League proven attackers, this is a big thing. I think if you brought a Nico Williams in or a Gittins in, it would be such like a risk. And also they're like touchline wingers, and Amorim wants people that are more comfortable coming in centrally. With Cunha, he's done it in a Wolves side that underperformed. He's played in a similar system. He knows what to do. He's done it in the Premier League. He's in that prime age. He's not young, but he's not old. Mbumo's same age as Cunha, I think 25. Done it in the Premier League, and people think that Mbumo's one season wonder, but he's done it for 3 years in the Premier League. This was his first 20-goal season, but his output's been very statistically good. And Mbumo reminds me a little bit of like the Roma Salah. I'm not saying he's going to hit Salah's level, but I think he's got that output and that bit about him. So I like the signing. Sesko's the one I've seen least of. I think elements of him is definitely raw, but he's definitely further ahead than Højlund in his development. There was the worry of getting a young striker in Højlund, it's backfired, but Sesko's miles ahead of the Højlund we signed. And interestingly, he was asked to go so deep for Leipzig. And I think maybe he could get more goals here. I know Bundesliga, you never get those kind of numbers in the Premier League, but I'm like, he's not going to be asked to play as deep. So that might be something interesting to see. So I think there'll be more goals, but I do think we'll concede more.
Well, look, in isolation, each of these three signings are very talented boys, and I can't lie, Arsenal fans are very excited at the prospect of Benjamin Šeško before we got our guy. There's a lot of questions in the chat about, do you think Šeško will start? We'll finish with starting lineups and predictions, but I think you're right, Alice. The firepower that you now have, and if you've underperformed XG so badly, and Bruno Fernandes, as much as we sort of dislike him as a non-United fan, he's a terrific player, and he's obviously been your standout performer over the last couple of years. You've got Amad Diallo as well, who's absolutely sensational. Defensively, though, there are questions. You've not done enough, I think, as an Arsenal fan, sort of defensively, certainly goalkeeper-wise, two shaky keepers, and central midfield. That's where I'm hoping that we're going to get a bit of fortune today. You joined us a few weeks back where we talked about your expectations of the summer window, and I think since then it's been quite clear that there's a pressure on Mikel Arteta. I want to get your thoughts on the Arsenal, obviously, but Ruben Amorim, he says he wants to stay here for a long time. He now has money at his disposal, a new training facility at Carrington, which looks sensational. What's the expectation of him? I mean, presumably, as a United fan who has seen your club do fantastic and so well over the years, and then all of a sudden, go through this really prolonged transition phase, the pressure is on him to deliver. And, after last year's disappointment in the Europa League, is he on the edge? Is he, sort of flirting with potentially maybe losing his role if things don't go his way in the first sort of 2-3 months?
Yeah, I think one thing we know about Ineos, and they've done it with Nice, is they sack managers like that. They got through a lot of managers at Nice, and I think they spent a lot of money in attack. I think if they don't get him in midfielder and things go wrong next season, I will definitely be more lenient towards Amorim, because he made that clear. Like Amorim is like Ben Jacobs and Ramon said, Amorim has literally gone to the board and like, go and get me a midfielder. He's made that clear. So I would have that bit of lenience with him if we don't get a midfielder. But for me, I think with eighth, I think he's got to try for eighth. I think if we have one game a week and we come 11th, I don't think that's a big enough improvement when you brought Sesko and Bumo and Cunha in. And, some Man United fans didn't like me for saying that, but I said, we've got to have standards, guys. I know that we keep sacking managers and we shouldn't keep sacking managers, and I know that Amorim was good at Sporting, but if we're sitting there in January in 14th place and we're not scoring goals and we've not improved, and the manager's not changing anything, we have to sit there and go, well, let's see what Thomas Frank's going to do at Tottenham. Thomas Frank, so far looks so good. And I think, obviously, with Amorim last season, he had pretty much no good players to work with because Ahmad got injured, Xerxes got injured, we sent Rashford off, we sent Anthony off. We had nobody in attack, and now he's got people in attack. And attack was the issue last year, scoring goals under Amorim. We actually did all right defensively. We got a result versus you guys at Old Trafford, knocked you out the cup. We got a result versus Liverpool last season. We beat Manchester City and drew 0-0 with them. It was all right when we could be defensive and part the bus. We were quite good at that under Amorim, and he actually made the midfield more compact in that sense. But the minute we want a bit of the ball and we want to break teams down and be creative, there was nothing there. Like the Europa League final was a huge example of it. Tottenham 1-0 up, did absolutely nothing. Like Tottenham did nothing and just sat and defended. And that game could have gone on for another hour and we still wouldn't have scored against them. It was so painful. So it's like, for me, I want to see more goals. I want to see better football, and I want to see eighth. I think he should be expected to get top 8 with one game a week and with those 3 attackers.
Well, we shall see. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. Terence Tibbs, welcome to the show, says, Alice, you have the best Arsenal content, very balanced, more positive than some Arsenal YouTubers. Hope you don't mean me, Terence. Come on. And Zubair says, great to have Alice on, FK. Sensible and fair analysis. What's the score prediction? We'll come to that in just a second. Lots of questions about the roof. Have you fixed the roof yet at Old Trafford? But let's just sort of overlook that. What are your thoughts on... Oh, the GOAT has entered the chat. Hand of Arsenal. He is very well connected if you're wondering. The Arsenal world, Alice, all the transfer activity this summer has been on top of it all. Says no hard feelings, Alice. Hope it's all is well. Keep up the amazing content. He obviously thinks that we're gonna beat you today. I want to get your thoughts as an outsider. You know, we live in this Arsenal bubble where everything's either falling apart because we're about to lose the pursuit of Eze, or everything's fine and dandy because people like me wake up on a morning like this and just feel absolutely buzzing for a game and we're going to win the lot. What's your view of Arsenal Arteta, our activity this summer?
I think your activity is better than it's getting credit for, to be honest. Like, I think because Subamende was done so early, people are sleeping on it. Like, for me, I think Subamende will easily be a signing of the season. Like, you know,
Arsenal signing of the season or Premier League signing of the season?
General, like I said it earlier in the window before the first kickoff. I went Subamende, Reinders. They're just two players that fit their team and their managers so well, and they're coming into a stable environment. I just went like Subamende and Reinders were the two biggest no-brainers for me, like of the window. And I always said I think João Pedro will surprise people as well. They were the three that I think could have big impacts. But I think like the business is good. But I think, look, there's questions over Martinelli. You know, he hasn't hit the same levels for 2 seasons now. There's definitely questions over the left-hand side and Arsenal being predictable. But I do think when you look at Gyökeres and Madueke, they're unpredictable players. And obviously, I think Wanyeri, there's an unpredictable player in there. You know, Max Dowman, I'm not going to expect a lot from a 15-year-old this season, but like, wow, there's a unbelievable player in there that, you know, is a bench option potentially. You know, you saw him pre-season, he can do something. And then you've got Kai Havertz and Gyökeres that are both capable of scoring 20 goals. One thing about Arsenal is I think Mourinho, when he played striker last year, he still scored a few goals and he's a midfielder. So I'm confident Gyökeres will score goals, maybe not the same number as Sporting. Saka, world-class player. Odegaard, I think he will have a much better season this year with a pre-season, I think, with Saka around him. Odegaard, I think, is a little bit of a system player if he needs those kind of guys and combinations around him. And I think he'll be better.
Sorry to interrupt there. He needs movement around him, Alice. You know, he's the sort of player who I think would thrive with players who are just constantly on the move, running in behind. And that's why we signed Victor Gyökeres, because he's so different to Kai Havertz. And with Saka now coming back and Ben White also, the overlapping fullback, the left-hand side has proved the problem. I know you're just about to talk about Madueke, but we still have Martinelli and Trossard, and hopefully with Victor Gyökeres making a nuisance of himself, could open up space. Sorry, carry on about Madueke.
Yeah, I think Madueke is... Look, I think you overpaid, but I think I understand why you went for Madueke in the sense of if Saka gets injured, there's a very good player to just fill in there. That's very good for depth. I think it also means you have to play Saka every game and run him into the ground. And he can also go on that left-hand side and play it on the left. And it's a good player there. Do I think you overpay? Yes, but I think his unpredictability, he's got one of the highest shot volumes in the Premier League for a winger. And I think that's something Arsenal lack, is a little bit of backwards, sideways. Sometimes when I watch Arsenal, I'm like, just put the ball in the box or have a shot.
That's how we feel.
And I'm like, at least with Madueke, you get that bit of something different. Same with Gyökeres. But as I said, it's my one concern over Arsenal would be the left-hand side. Like, if you signed Rafael Leao, I would have predicted you to win the league. Like, because I think if you're looking at defensive and midfield stability, you're top. But it is, do you know what? City and I think Liverpool will get more goals than you this year, even with Gyökeres. Just because the left-hand side means double mark Saka, double mark Gyökeres. I think Rafael Leao or some kind of explosive left winger is what I think Arsenal should look at. But you never know. Everyone says if Martinelli gets a left centre mid and a left back and you get the right, you could unlock Martinelli. But I think that is an area of weakness.
I think so. Well, the window is still open, but pre-season is not. So let's have a look at form guide over the summer. This courtesy of the BBC. Manchester United, of course, you had your there was a sort of friendly cup competition at Old Trafford last week, drawing with Fiorentina but winning on pens. You've had the Premier League summer series where you drew with Everton 2-2, beat Bournemouth quite handsomely 4-1. You beat West Ham United as well in a goalless draw against Leeds to kick it off. Arsenal, to the contrary, sort of going away to Singapore, to Hong Kong, losing against our North London rivals, losing again then to Villarreal, and of course winning the Emirates Cup. Mixed fortunes, but what have you seen from Manchester United, Alice, over the summer? Anything of notable sort of difference in terms of, tweaks, tactical play, structure, setup?
Yeah, I don't think Amarin changed the structure too much. There's still things that he's doing that I'm just like, the central centre back stepping up in build up doesn't really work with De Ligt, and I'm like, oh, we're still doing this. But there was other things I saw. I thought and I don't know if we'll do this versus Arsenal but I think if we played a Burnley, we'd do this. The wing backs were much higher. Like not, it was more of a back three than a flat back five, which is so much better to see. But the two biggest things we saw, and this was particularly versus Bournemouth from West Ham, was the intensity. We just looked fitter. We were moving the ball quicker, and we were just playing with a different level of intensity. And it wasn't quite the same versus Fiorentina or Everton, which was annoying because they had the most two recent games. But it was, wow, this team looks quicker. It felt like watching us in 2 times speed from last year. And that Bournemouth game, we were particularly very impressive in. West Ham, to be honest, we probably could have won that 4-1. But the Bournemouth game was the standout in terms of our attacking movement, how quick we're attacking. And one thing I've noticed is we're attacking quick and we're moving the ball a lot faster. And I think Mbumo and Ahmad on that right-hand side is going to be very dangerous. And I'm really happy with our right-hand side because, Yoro is mint. For me, he got a lot of stick because he had that one game versus Southampton and people just wrote him off. He has been our second best player after Bruno Fernandes since February. He's been so good. Ahmad we know is a good player. Mbumo everyone is a good player. So I like the little right-hand side from right centre-back, right wing-back. Maino in there is really good with his technical touches. And we actually had Maino and Agate versus Bournemouth. And it worked really well in the sense of Maino's technical touches and all of that. It worked really well.
And Mason Mount enjoying somewhat of a renaissance. No, I mean, he had a really lovely goal in one of the pre-season friendlies. What do you make of him? Is he coming back?
Yeah, look, Mason Mount's one of those. If he stays fit, you've got to play there. It's all about fitness. Amorim likes him. He suits the system. It's a really good rotation option for Cunha, and he was very good. The Fiorentina game, he played centre forward because it was he just didn't want to play Højlund because he's trying to get Højlund to just go away. And I think his press and everything was good. He's clearly not centre forward. But in the games when he came on slightly on that left, I thought he was good. There is talk of him even playing today. I don't know if he'll start today. I'd be quite shocked, but there's potential if Amorim wants another body and someone that can cover a lot of ground in midfield today, and that could be Mount.
Rancid Pumpkin says, I'm a bit mind blown. A United fan talking sense. It's the first time I'm witnessing this. Alice is absolutely awesome, and her YouTube channel is sensational. Do follow Alice. She's available on Alice Talks Footy if you're enjoying some of the content. By the way, hundreds of you watching. This is a new type of show that we're doing. Match previews. If you're liking it, if you're enjoying it, please do, of course, drop a like drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I've not had any sleep. I went to bed at 5:30, 6, and I woke up at 8 and I feel sick, but I'm absolutely buzzing today. In terms of, look, really interesting to know that you're moving the ball faster. From our side, I've noticed the same. We've still got the sort of back four. We've got maybe a sort of pivot situation there with Rice and Zubimendi, and Ødegaard might play a freer role, but then of course he might play Rice in that sort of advanced position and Ødegaard on the right 8. We're moving the ball quicker. Goalkeeper through to defence. We're trying to transition much quicker. Obviously, we've got to fit in players like Madueke and Victor Gyökeres who have a certain style of play and certain system that they will thrive in. So it won't surprise me if we try and do more from our sort of regains and try and work the ball up the pitch much faster than we typically do, which is that sort of slow build up outside that horseshoe, get towards the opposition box and sort of really try and suffocate you in. So that'll be quite interesting. And like I say, our form over pre-season has been a bit sort of hit and miss, but we shall see. Let's move on to the final segment. Lineups for today and potentially your prediction as well, Alice, looking to the game. Don't know what's happened to my graphics there. Has it appeared on screen? No, is it completely gone? There you go. Right. This is from your last friendly. So if you're going to go sort of 3 at the back, you talked about Bayindir or Onana. Are you expecting Onana to start today?
Yeah, I think Onana might start. I think if he's fit, he starts. Apparently, he and Cisco played a behind closed door friendly on Tuesday. because
Ooh.
they haven't played in the preseason games. I don't know how true that is. That was just because we didn't even get a score or anything like that.
Mhm.
But they've been doing something. So I think it will be Onana.
Defensively, Maguire, you've got De Ligt has been in and out as well, and Lenny Euro. Who are you expecting to start along the back for you?
I think it will be Euro is the most obvious one because he literally played every game pre-season. I think Aiden Heaven could start left centre back. It'll
Ooh.
be him or Luke Shaw, but I think Amon really likes Aiden Heaven's mobility and all of that, and he's looked very good. So I think we could see Aiden Heaven, and then in the middle, I think it will be one of De Ligt or Maguire. I honestly don't know which one though. I think whatever one he feels is maybe more fresh. I think Maguire's better at set pieces, and Arsenal are known for being like the set piece goal scorer. So
Mhm.
maybe he goes with Maguire for that, and then obviously Dorgu and Ahmad out wide. Although there's a part of me that thinks could he go with Delo because
Yeah, I was
defensive
just about to
stability.
ask. Go on.
One thing I noticed when we play Arsenal or City or Liverpool, we do play more of a back five than a back three. So there is a part of me that thinks, especially because Mbumo only played like 45 minutes in pre-season, could we see Delo and Ahmad on the right? That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean, look, the wing back sort of model that he's going to deploy is going to be interesting. I mean, Ahmad's a fantastic player, really, really sort of talented, obviously explosive with pace. You do wonder if he'd sort of thrive more in that sort of right forward position rather than playing sort of wing back, but we shall see. In the centre of the pitch, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, do you reckon?
Yeah, it's either going to be Bruno and Casemiro or Casemiro and Agate with Bruno more advanced.
Okay. And then obviously your front three, I suspect, will be your three new boys. Benjamin
Yeah,
Sesko through the middle, Cunha maybe out to the
I'm
left a little
hoping
bit.
Cunha, Sesko, and Bumo, but there's a small part of me that thinks he might put a Mount or a Bruno in that Sesko role, and have Sesko on the bench to come off, and then it would
Ooh.
be either Ahmad or Bumo as the 10, depending if Ahmad plays right wing back. Because again, Mbumo hasn't played loads in preseason, but Cunha I think is left 10. I think it could be Bruno or Mount in the middle if Bruno's not deeper, and one of Ahmad or Mbumo on the right, but it depends if Delo plays. Because something tells me Delo's going to play, and I want to see Ahmad, but something tells me Delo's going to play.
Well, it's interesting because obviously the headlines and the sensational channels have gassed this up as the Battle of the Nines. That was the thumbnail that I used. And there's an interesting conundrum for Mikel Arteta to make because Victor Gyökeres, he scored his first goal in Arsenal colours last weekend, but Kai Havertz is obviously our main striker, has been for a couple of years. He's got a real decision to make there. Personally, I would go for Victor, but from our side, that was the lineup from Athletic Club against in the Emirates Cup, Alice. So David Raya will keep in goal. I think we've got a decision to make around fullbacks. Ben White is now back. He's the overlapping, attacking sort of fullback. Jurriën Timber, much more stable defensively. Doesn't really quite give you that overlap in the output in the final third. On the other side, MLS breakthrough season last year, phenomenal at sort of tucking into midfield and giving us the overload. But Ricky Calafiori, defensively, potentially better. I think it will be a really interesting to see what Mikel Arteta does in terms of combination. Does he go with Calafiori and Timber, which is probably what I'd do, just to give us that defensive solidity? Saliba, Gabriel, two warriors of defenders. We know what you're gonna get with them. I expect Supermendy to make his debut alongside Rice and Erdegaard. And I think those as a trio could be a very exciting midfield this
Yeah,
summer. I think this
that's what I was
season. Sorry. Yeah, and I'm hoping, to your point earlier, that we really try and win that battle in midfield. We've got runners there, we've got ballers there, we've got technicians there. Like it's just the perfect combination. And then up top, I expect Bukayo Saka to play on the right hand side, and I think he will go with Martinelli. Although Trossard did score the winner there a couple of years ago, so interesting to see. I think it could be box office. It could be end to end stuff. I mean, I certainly hope it's not. I'll be in the grounds, and if we score first and early, then I hope the floodgates open. But it could be end to end stuff because both teams are trying to move the ball quicker, be a bit more direct, and we've got firepower, immense firepower on both sides. So I hope it doesn't end up being a sort of 3-2, 4-3 type game. I hope we control it, and obviously I hope we smash you. But I think it's going to be entertaining for the neutral. Now I've added a question here. Let me know in the chat what your prediction is. But before I do that, Alice, I want to come to you. Andy says, fantastic preview show, FK. Alice is both interesting and knowledgeable. Thank you for that. Alice deserves all the credit because her content is absolutely superb. How do you think the game's going to go? Where do you think the game is going to be won and lost, Alice? And leave us with your prediction.
So whenever we play Arsenal, I always say the same thing. If it's at Emirates, I just always assume Arsenal are going to win or get a result. Do you know what I mean? And even though Arsenal are definitely a better team than us right now, when it's at Old Trafford, I always feel like I've got to back Man United to at least get a draw. Like in my head, I do think Arsenal are going to win this. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, this is at Old Trafford. We have a very good record against you guys at Old Trafford, as you do at Emirates against us. So I'm gonna like hope that Manchester United get a draw. But again, I think there's a part of me that thinks Arsenal will win today. But I'm hoping if we're just looking to frustrate you, I think one thing about you is the low blocks. If we defend well, we'll look to frustrate you. I think if you score first, then the game plan's kind of done. So we need to not concede early. I do worry if we're going to be nervy. I think it's going to be a defensively solid performance. What worries me is the midfield battle. Subamende and Declan Rice versus Casemiro and Bruno. We know that Bruno is a phenomenal player, but like Bruno playing as a DM next to Casemiro with no more legs against, Subamende and Declan Rice that couldn't outrun them all. That is a big area of concern. Build up is an area of concern as well. We're not good at build up. Maino is our best player at build up, and we just don't know what his role is going to be under Amorim because there's concerns. I think it is defensive stability, get a 1-1 draw, but I do have worries about Arsenal and set pieces, us leaving the man at the back post unmarked, Gyökeres making a late run. I do have concerns, but I'm going to go 1-1, but I think Gyökeres is going to score for Arsenal.
I think you make a really excellent point that sends kind of shivers down my spine, which is that Arsenal always seem to play the occasion at Old Trafford. They play the fixture, if you know what I mean. Like if we be real, you had a really bad season last year. It wasn't the ideal season for us, but you're right. We are in better shape. We have more stability in terms of the players that we have, and Arteta's, at the top end of the table, which is where we both want to be. And so for that reason alone, on paper, you would think, right, we're going to Manchester United. It's their first game of the season. They've looked a little bit rusty throughout the last sort of 12, 18 months. They're there for the taking. But for whatever reason, we get to Old Trafford and it's just that fixture, the occasion. United also raised their game. We know that, Alice. Manchester United have got this track record of going to Anfield, going to the Etihad. Like, it doesn't matter what form you're in, you always turn up for the big games. So I'm hoping for our sake that we obviously, come out flying and we take this game and treat it like just any other game. I would be disappointed if Arsenal dropped points today if we got a draw. I think I completely recognise what you're saying. But I think given where we want to be this season, and like you said about Liverpool and City, I don't think there's going to be much room for error this year. So we've got to start well, and I hope we get a win. I think we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for joining me today, Alice. Really appreciate that. To the hundreds of you watching live on YouTube right now, this is a new type of show. If you've really enjoyed it, please do drop a like in the video. Subscribe if you're new, if you've enjoyed the content. Thanks also to our Patreon members and to our YouTube channel members. By the way, Patreon members, there is an event coming up with Mikel Arteta and Steve Kerr, US basketball coach, in London at a hotel in just a couple of weeks' time. One of you will win a pair of tickets to be my guest on the night, to be part of the audience, potentially with a chance to sort of hear from Mikel and to meet him. That's the plan, but certainly hear from him at the very least. So do get over to Patreon, support the channel, and I really appreciate all of the love on this early Sunday morning. That's it. We'll leave it there. If anybody wants to follow Alice, she is available at Alice Talks Footy. Alice, where can we find you on YouTube and socials?
Yeah, just Alice Talks Footy across all socials. If you're interested in more Arsenal-based content, then that would be Aquila Football. That's where I cover the top 6. But Alice Talks Footy for United stuff. Thanks for having me on.
You're most welcome, and thanks for joining me, and thanks for being so flexible. You know how difficult it's been to schedule this, but I really appreciate you making time on this Sunday morning. Enjoy the game. Enjoy watching from wherever you are watching, chat. Hope you have a fantastic day. Off to Old Trafford we go. Manchester United take on Arsenal. What a glorious day. We'll be back later. Bye for now.